Hello, I'm Nick Knudsen, and this is Robert Parker with American Football Stories doing a special report to read and reaction with the 2021 recruiting class for the Florida Gators. The first prospect we want to look at, five-star transfer Eric Gilbert coming over to Florida from LSU, built like a tight end, runs like a wide receiver. Does that sound familiar, Robert?
It really does. And I tell you what, Cal Pitts was definitely heavy hard on his recruiting coming over from LSU to Florida. So a huge get for the Florida Gators, a huge get. I'm so excited right now, Nick. I'm speechless right now.
6'5", 253 pounds out of Marietta High School, originally in Marietta, Georgia, which is up in the Atlanta area, was thought to really have a good shot to end up at Georgia, but he ends up at LSU in Death Valley. He visited for the Tigers win over Florida in 2019, that classic game with Kyle Trask going up and down the field with Joe Burrow, and that really swayed him to committing to Louisiana State. He said at the time, I just kind of had a feeling about LSU before that, he told Dog Nation, but that visit solidified it. And you can't blame him off of that game. If you're going, I'm sure Death Valley was rocking that night. And if you're an offensive weapon like Gilbert, watching Joe Burrow sling the football around, that can't hurt in recruiting for LSU.
No, it really can. And I tell you what, Joe Burrow and that offense had a heck of a game going against that Florida defense. And if that's what Eric Gilbert saw, firsthand, especially with the crowd, rocking away like it does in Death Valley, then that's a great selling point. And, ultimately that's what it came down to.
Yeah, he said though afterward that the most important part wasn't just about playing football, is that he could envision himself going to school there at LSU. But as we all know, things change. I can imagine there was a pretty magical feel on the LSU campus in 2019 when you're in the middle of a historic national championship run. But 2020 had other plans for Coach O and the Tigers, just like the rest of us. And Gilbert, he ends up enrolling early at LSU last January, gets a jump on preparing for 2020 like a lot of these top recruits did. He doesn't get to do spring ball. Spring ball ends up being canceled and everything, but he did make an early impression on fall camp. Right now, we're going through the NFL draft process. One of the prospects, East-West Shrine Bowl selection, LSU safety Jacoby Stevens, he told LSU Sports in fall camp last year, Gilbert's a freak of nature, man. Coach O's always calling him Megatron. He really can move like a receiver, but like I said, he weighs 250 pounds, so that's 250 pounds running a 4.4 speed directly at you. For the record, in high school, ESPN said Gilbert ran a 4.73, so maybe let's not get too fired up about that 4.4 speed. But the point is, Rob, the guy's an athlete, and he's going to be a mismatch nightmare, much in the same vein as Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, you're right. He's just a freak. He's a freak of nature. 6'5", 255. You mentioned earlier with his weight and height. Just like you said, he can run like Cal Pitts did this past season. I think that was probably a most influence on him for him to come over and make that decision with entering the transfer portal and coming to Florida. So I think this is a huge get for this Gator team. And if you're a Florida fan like me and you, Nick, it's just no way that you cannot be excited. The only tight end to ever win the Gatorade Player of the Year. Like, come on now.
For the nation.
For the nation,
right.
From the nation, the highest tight end, in the history rankings of the composite. So this is a huge get. So I don't know if we can sell him high enough, because this is just an amazing get for Gator Nation.
And just for the record, during his senior year, according to Sports Illustrated, Gilbert caught 105 passes for 1,800 plus yards and 15 touchdowns for the entire career of his entire high school career. That was just his senior season, by the way. His entire high school career, 243 catches for over 3,500 yards and 35 touchdowns. And hey, it's not like Gilbert went to LSU and it just didn't work out. We know what LSU struggles were last year. They're trying to replace a lot of weapons. Gilbert was actually one of the reasons why a lot of people were still optimistic about the Tigers' offense last year heading into the season. But as we saw between the injuries and opt-outs and everything, 2020 was a horrible recipe for the LSU Tigers. And Gilbert was one of the few bright spots. So he's still in 8 games, Rob, 35 receptions for 368 yards and 2 touchdowns. His career best game came in LSU's 45-41 loss in Missouri, where he had 6 catches for 97 yards and a touchdown. he caught 4 or more passes in 6 of the 8 games before he opted out after that Bama disaster in Death Valley. But I know there's some questions around the opt outs. We're not going to dig too deep into it for this video, but it's not like he went to LSU and was a total bust here. That's a pretty good production for a true freshman right there.
Yeah, really good production for a true freshman, if you ask me. Especially just losing everyone that LSU lost the previous season. So I don't I look at Eric Gilbert coming over as a 5-star recruit coming out of high school with a little bit of training, having that college experience, and putting him in a Dan Mullen offense where he can thrive. And he has weapons around him, and Jacob Copeland. You got Justin Shorter, another 5-star who actually entered the transfer portal and wound up in Florida. So
Right.
he has weapons on the outside of him to make his job a little bit easier. And the freak of nature athlete that he is within a Dan Mullen system, the sky's the limit for this guy.
Dan Mullen's going to find a way to put him in the right matchups and get him the football. Absolutely love it too. DeMarcus Bowman as well too, right? We got a couple. So you're going to have Lingard if he gets in a little bit. So there's going to be some 5-stars floating around that Gator offense. I know there's been a lot of criticism about not landing the 5-stars in the recruiting trail to high school, but Dan Mullen, he's loving this transfer portal.
He really is, and he's taking full advantage of it. I think Eric Gilbert was the biggest get, that could enter the transfer portal. The only other name that I can throw out there that may be bigger will be a Spencer Rattler, but we know he's not leaving Oklahoma. So this is definitely the biggest get, across the board, no matter what position. So this is a huge get for Gator fans, Gator Nation, and this Florida football team on the offense side of the ball, especially losing a mismatch nightmare in Cal Pitts going into the draft.
Well, thanks again to Robert Parker from American Football Stories. I'm Nick Knutson of American Football Stories. Be sure to check out our podcast, the American Football Stories podcast, where we dive deeper into some of these issues. But for now, for this video, for Reading Reaction, signing off. Go Gators.